Welcome back to Fleshing It Out Career Edition. We are here with Yaron Linett. Thank you so much, Yaron, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yaron is actually on site at a house. Yaron and his wife have an interior design business. So how did you get into that field, and kind of tell us a little bit about what that means to be in that field?
The way I got into the field was rather circuitous.
Wait. What does that mean? Because I need you to explain that word. Even though I was an English major, I need help with that.
Circuitous, like a circuit, a roundabout.
Okay.
I took a job where they stuck me in a different department than I had applied for. And in this job, we learned that genetically, I have nearly perfect color acuity. So I can see very fine gradations between colors. So it allows me to match things more easily and more quickly, and to be able to do one of the fundamental jobs of interior design genetically. And many, many years later, I had risen to the top of that company, and then we started our own firm not long after that, and we got so busy, I needed my wife, who's a classically trained artist, to leave her job and come work for our firm. And we've been doing that for about 4 years at this point.
Wow. Now, did you always want to go into interior design, or was that kind of,
No.
How did that work
would have
out?
been, if you had guessed what I would end up as when I grew up, interior design would be probably in the bottom 5% of all guesses. It just, sometimes you don't know where you're going to be and what's good. And I'm where I'm supposed to be, but I just didn't know it until I got here.
That's great. Now, what are some of the education or training that it took to get you there? So, and that's going to be, I want that to be a two-part question, because I want it to be
Sure.
When you got into your initial job, before you kind of transitioned to the entrepreneurial role, kind of. So when you got to that first position, what was some of the requirements you needed to get into that?
So in the beginning, let me say that it varies state by state. But in Virginia, where I practice mostly, and in Maryland, there are no educational requirements in order to be an interior designer. Now, to be a certified interior designer, you have to pass the NCIDQ or an equivalent test and be basically certified by the board. But in my industry, that's mostly only applicable to larger commercial work. So even still, I still work with hotels. I've still worked with embassies. We've been all over the place. The vast majority of our industry doesn't find that there's a good return on investment in order to go ahead and become certified. It's a lot of time and a lot of money that nets you very little, because it doesn't stop you from doing a lot of the work.
So really, it sounds like on-the-job training is
right.
most critical.
That's where the difference is. So over 13 years before I started my own thing, I learned so many lessons on the job working with experts who had been doing it for decades before me. And what I learned, not only working myself, but with other people, is that the way that most of us in this industry learn is by making very expensive mistakes. So it's nice when they're not on your dime, or you have someone who knows better who says, whoa, you really need to learn how to do this.
Yep, shift it away.
Right.
I think that's definitely a common theme is find mentors.
Right.
What does an average day look like, and kind of the kind of hours and things like that, so people would know, so that young people can know.
And to your last point again about when I became an entrepreneur, that's when it became even more important for me to go ahead and hire a business coach, one specific to my industry, who was the best one I could find. And learning from them has been everything else that I could have asked for.
That's awesome.
The typical day for an interior designer is waiting for a lot of returned phone calls or emails. Most of my job deals with coordinating things, checking on things, and making sure that other people do what they're supposed to do. I would say, as far as billable hours, because I work both flat fee and hourly, but mostly hourly. If I work 3 billable hours in a day, that is a very, very good and busy day for me. 3/4 of a normal interior designer's time could be spent on not only waiting for return calls, but also networking. Our industry works almost entirely based on referrals and recommendations. 90% of most of the work an interior designer does is for people who either they've already done work for or who are somehow related to that individual. Very few interior designers actually spend any money advertising at all.
Wow. So it's really all about the relationships that you're building and the connections you're making.
It's about building your brand, and your brand is about promises delivered.
Promises delivered. That's great. What is your favorite? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I charge $250 an hour for my design time. Nobody pays that if I don't do what I say I'm going to do.
You had to follow through. What would be your favorite and least favorite parts of your job?
I guess my favorite part, aside from petting all my clients' dogs, would be when we have the reveal after everything's done. And it's a very emotional day. Everybody reacts to it differently because it's someone's home. It's so personal. There's often tears. Sometimes people are just stunned and can't speak or process. It's a really big day. And then following up when, a month later or sometimes 6 months later, I'm still getting emails from people saying how when they had guests over, they were so proud of their house and they felt so good. Or now that we're basically in quarantine still, I have a lot of my clients thanking me, saying it was so amazing that you took care of this for us before we knew we were going to be locked in our house. And, these are the most comfortable pieces of furniture that we have in our house. The house works better for us now. The kitchen works. And who knew that it'd be 6 months where we would be relying on your work so heavily.
That's awesome. So to wrap up part 1, is there anything else career related that, especially because this is geared towards, high schoolers, young adults, anything else that you think it would be valuable for them to know if they want to go into the interior design business, or something you wish you would have known at their age?
Right. Well, absolutely. There's 2 things that will do you in good stead no matter where you end up. One is understanding that showing up on time, or even being early and waiting and then coming around the corner when it's time, shows respect to your clients. You respect their time, they respect your time. It's so important. It's up there with being organized, where there's never a time when being organized or respectful is going to hurt you. The other thing is knowing your self-worth. If you don't believe that you deserve and you are worth what it is that you're charging, then you can't expect other people to either. And if you come in and you say like, well, I'm not very good, I'm new, I'm small, would it be okay if I charged you $20 an hour? People are going to say, oh, I don't know, maybe you should work for 10 or 15 and we'll see how it goes. If you come in and you're worth 400 an hour and you are able to deliver on that value, people will respect you if you respect yourself, and they'll pay it, and then they'll be very happy because you've delivered that value.
That is incredible advice, Yaron. Thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing the words of encouragement and insight. And so I know that is valuable to kids. And so that wraps up our part 1. And we're going to come back for part 2 with a few bonus questions.
Bye, kids.
Bye. And we're back with part 2. We're here with Yaron Linett. He's an interior designer, and we are wrapping up our career questions with a bonus round. And so, you talked a lot about showing up on time and over delivering, really quality. And I appreciate that, because that's true in no matter what field kids go into. So as we wrap up your questions, what misconceptions do people have about your career, or would people have?
Oh, good question. The biggest misconception that people have is that this is an easy and fun job, just like they see on HGTV, and you go around and you get to pick pretty things all day, and that is not the way it works at all. First, the timelines are completely different. The prices are completely different than what you see. But most importantly, before I got in, I used to think that the really famous people would pay them to design things in their own style. That's not actually the case. They may like the brand, but it's not my job to impose my taste on a client. It's my job to help them find what they love and to do things for them. Like a ghostwriter writes in someone else's voice. And that is critically important. It's not like that in fashion design. It's not like that in graphic design. It's not like that in interior design. My job is to deliver someone else what they, love, not what I love.
And that's like a great thing to remember of, depending on how you work with a client, no matter, depending on what your profession is, to always, be that client focused. What would people be surprised to learn about your field of interior design?
How much math is involved? That's probably the least attractive issue for people. If you don't know how to draw, if you don't know how to sew window treatments, if you don't know how to do all of the little things, the vast majority, which are math related, maybe not hard math, but math, you can make very, very costly mistakes. So knowing the basis of how all this stuff is done is very important. If you draw a picture of a window treatment and sell it to a client and you've priced it wrong, or you've drawn something that physically can't be made, you're on the hook at that point. It's not a comfortable conversation.
That's I had never even thought of that. I never, once you said it, it made sense. But math, that's a good one. What is the greatest part, or, the most rewarding part of your job?
Really, it's helping people. People think that design is entirely about ornament, but it's really not. It's about health and safety. When I redo someone's bedroom who has a back problem and they can't sleep right, and I fix the lighting and I fix the mattress and the pillow, and I get the anthropometrics right. Anthropometrics being the study of the proportions of humans and basically how it relates to furniture. When I can fix that for someone and suddenly they can sleep, that changes lives. And it saves lives. I mean, I'm not a doctor. It's not anything like that. But if you look up the statistics for how much more likely you are to die in a car accident if you even miss 1 hour of sleep a night, it is insane crazy. And very few of us get enough restful sleep.
Wow. I did not see that one coming. When I don't remember. Oh, yeah, that kind of goes to what would surprise you to learn about that field. That definitely is one for me. I think sometimes we undervalue how much impact we can have in someone's life. And that just kind of brought it home to, wow, you just think of something, like you said, you think about it as just being ornamental, just something superficial, something to look at. I never thought about how much it could actually impact someone's life. So,
or putting in a refrigerator that is designed the correct way to allow their food to last 2 or 3 times as long, so that they have healthy food instead of constantly throwing away everything that doesn't have preservatives in it.
Wow. Well, as we wrap it up, Yaron, last thing, is there, are there certain traits, whether it's gifts, talents, interests that would be a great fit for someone, that interior design would be a great fit for?
Absolutely. You want to be a people person, or at least not an anti-people person, because you're going to be dealing with people all the time. You have to like people. But really also visually, you have to be able to see colors. And there are trichromats and tetrachromats, and the rods and cones in your eye really make a big difference. And that's just genetic. And I'm sorry, guys, but genetically, women have an enormous advantage over us. They're almost completely immune to color blindness compared to men. Very few women have color blindness, and even past that, their acuity is way better on average. So there's truth to that.
I learned a lot of new things today, Yaron. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing more about your profession of interior design. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
You can go to www.formaltraditional.com and shoot me an email, sign up on our email list. But above that, I also write a monthly column for Piedmont Lifestyles magazines. So I'm either in Haymarket, Gainesville, or Warrenton pretty much every month. And you can always send in a question to them, and I'm happy to follow up.
That's great. Thank you so much, Yaron. I appreciate your time and your insight and learning so much today about interior design that I didn't know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.